It has taken 232 years and 115 prior appointments for a Black woman to be selected to serve on the Supreme Court of the United States. But we've made it.
That is Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson speaking after her historic confirmation to the Supreme Court back in 2022. Now she's hoping her story will inspire the next generation of Americans to follow their dreams. Justice Jackson's best-selling memoir, Lovely One, is now adapted for young adults. You can get it by scanning the QR code right there on your screen. Justice Jackson, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
It's such a pleasure to speak with you.
I'm delighted to be here. Thank you.
So in your book, you revealed that in one of your college essays, you said that you had a dream of being the first Black female Supreme Court justice. And then you go on to say...
to appear on a Broadway stage.
To appear on a Broadway stage. You have since completed that dual dream since your first memoir came out because you appeared in & Juliet.
I did.
When it comes to the business of realizing dreams, which you're very good at, what do you think is the factor that has helped you the most?
Well, I think it is a self-confidence that my parents really instilled in me as a young child. They wanted me to know that I could do anything I wanted to do. My parents had grown up in the segregated South, and I was born in 1970, which was just after the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act and the end of Jim Crow segregation. And my parents, who were public school teachers at the time, really trained me to believe in myself. And I think it was that sense of my self-worth and my own abilities. And then, of course, a lot of hard work that helped me to get this far.
But Justice Jackson, how did they do that? Because a lot of us know the story of the woman at Harvard who whispered into your ear, persevere.
Yes.
But I noticed that word perseverance appears throughout the book. You talk about how your parents nurtured a spirit of perseverance in you from birth. How did they do that?
I think they focused on believing in me and training me to believe that about myself. As I said, my parents were teachers, and so I think that helped. My mother, when I was very young, put up signs that labeled everything in my room and taught me how to read very early. And they saw something, the potential to be great, and wanted me to be that way.
I love that when you would struggle with something, your mother would say, Ketanji, has someone else ever done this before?
That's right.
And you would say? And
I would say, yes, Mom. And she said, well, if this can be done, you can do it too.
Exactly.
And I took that to heart, I think.
Oh, I loved that. You really, throughout the book, talk about how connected you feel to your ancestry. You talk about and really open the book with your grandparents, their lives. Tell us a bit about their circumstances.
So my grandparents grew up in rural Georgia in the 1920s and 30s, and they didn't really have any formal schooling, but education was important to them, and they wanted their children to have a better life. My grandfather was a chauffeur for a white family, and my grandmother worked in the big house. But they moved to Miami in the late 1930s because they heard that there were opportunities there. And even though it was a segregated society still, my grandfather was able to get a job as a trucker. And then eventually he started his own landscaping business. And that really was the opportunity that allowed him to put all 5 of his children through college, which was something that meant a lot to them because they understood that education was going to be the key to our success as a family and really our ability to withstand and thrive in this society.
You talk about your Uncle Tom and his experience with the criminal justice system. Tell us about him and how that informed the way that you look at criminal justice.
So my Uncle Thomas was my father's older brother. My father's circumstances were different than my mother's. I was describing my grandparents on my mother's side before. My father grew up as one of 5 with a single mother. And Uncle Thomas, his older brother, in his late 40s, got into trouble with drugs. And when I was in college, he was arrested for a drug courier offense. And at that time, there was a new statute that had been enacted that essentially was a 3 strikes law in the federal system. And he had 2 minor prior criminal justice issues, and this was his 3rd strike. And so he got a life sentence for this drug courier offense. And I didn't know at the time, but I found out many years later when I had become a federal public defender, and he called me from jail. And I knew he was in jail, but I didn't know that he had gotten a life sentence and the circumstances of his case. And I looked into it at his request. And it was really a very sobering moment because I had worked in the criminal justice system as a lawyer. I was helping people, but it was quite a different thing to have a relative who had faced those kinds of consequences.
And really shapes, how you look at the law when it affects you so personally.
Absolutely.
You say most people who go to law school don't have someone they know personally or a family member who's been through the system. I'd love to talk about your speech and debate coach just for 1 second,
yes.
because you describe her as someone so important to you,
Yes.
who really treated you like family.
She did.
And she, some said that she was an arch conservative and she believed in you so much.
She
this
did.
young black girl giving liberal speeches, and she was your biggest supporter. What can we learn about your relationship with her?
Well, we learned that mentors are really important. Part of what I'm doing in the book is trying to pay homage to the mentors and the people who I thought really were responsible for my success because they believed in me when I was a young kid coming up. And Mrs. Berger was the first mentor that I had outside of my parents and people in my family who saw something in me, and she was the kind of coach that was around the clock. You could call her at any time.
And she didn't care about the politics of what you were saying.
She did not. She just wanted me to express myself in whatever way was most comfortable for me.
Last question for me, because we're running out of time.
Yes.
You talk about, of course, your love of theater and how you acted in college. You did scenes with Mo Rocca of CBS and Matt Damon?
I did. Well, Matt Damon and I were in a drama class together, and we were paired for a scene just in class, not on the stage. But at that time, he was already well known. People were thinking, he might be a big actor. So it was a big
Even in
deal.
college?
In college,
And
yes.
now you see him on the screen and you're like...
I'm like, I know that guy.
Well, he probably says the same thing when he sees you on TV. Justice Jackson, thank you so much.
Thank you.
The young adult adaptation of her best-selling memoir, Lovely One, is on sale right now. Scan the QR code on your screen to get it.